Welcome back to this special edition of Hannity, Trump versus the left. The Hollywood hate machine appears to be taking its anti-Trump derangement syndrome to disturbing new levels, as Universal confirms it will move forward with the release of the controversial film titled The Hunt, which depicts wealthy vacationers hunting, quote, deplorables for sport. But commercials for the movie have been pulled. Take a look.
Your idea is incredible.
I can't argue with that. We pay for everything. So this country belongs to us.
It's just business. Hunting human beings for sport.
They're not human beings.
Every year, a bunch of elites
kidnap normal folk like us.
Where'd they get you from?
Wyoming, Mississippi,
Orlando. And hunt us for sport.
It's a satire film, but it's exposing even more Hollywood hypocrisy on the issue of gun violence and inflammatory rhetoric. And even President Trump weighed in earlier today. Take a look.
Hollywood, I don't call them the elites. I think the elites are people they go after in many cases. But Hollywood is really terrible. What they're doing with the kind of movies they're putting out, it's actually very dangerous for our country. What Hollywood is doing is a tremendous disservice to our country.
Joining me now for reaction is Relatable podcast host Allie Beth Stuckey, along with SiriusXM Patriot radio host Kerry Pickett and Fox News contributor Tammy Bruce. All right, Tammy, I'll go to you first. I can almost guarantee you every so-called, air quotes here, dreaded air quotes, deplorable in this movie is going to be some ridiculous Hollywood snob elitist stereotype of what a Trump voter looks for, and it is probably not going to be positive. You think I'm right on that, or is that a stretch?
I think so. And as a matter of fact, The Hollywood Reporter, the trade magazine for Hollywood and the industry, reports that, in fact, this is so bad, or at least within many studios was recognized earlier this year, much earlier this year, as being a problem. One executive, according to sources for The Hollywood Reporter, noted they refused to even read the script at the studio because the idea was so crazy. Others recognized the danger involved. And I think that what that tells you, Dan, is that even they do know what this means. The other report from the reporter, the Hollywood Reporter, was that there have been some edits to this film already. And so that would indicate also an acknowledgement of responsibility in the impact of what film and television do to the nature of our culture and to the way people relate to each other. In fact, that's what they take pride in. This is why they do the movies they do, and why they are so shocked at the election in 2016. So I think they recognize it. The fact that they were willing to do it does confirm that this divide exists, and that they're willing and even interested in perpetuating. And we've seen this at some of the protests, and some liberal elites, high-profile individuals, have noted, a desire for certain kinds of violence, the threats and the desire for violence against Mitch McConnell. So I think that this is an indication that Hollywood knows what it's doing.
You know, Kerry, when you wake up in the morning, you want to believe you're contributing to some, earthly good and not making the world a worse place. I wonder what Hollywood executives sat around with a focus group in this time of, let's just be honest, a lot of friction in politics. I think that's an understatement. And thought the idea of hunting the opposition's political supporters with weapons down was a good idea. Like this, does this not speak to the out-of-touch, aloof nature of Hollywood?
It's so true, Dan. And think about this for a second. Wasn't this movie already done in another way? I mean, it's sort of like a ripoff of some other films that I think were already done in Hollywood, but they decided to tweak it a bit and say, yeah, let's go after some conservatives instead. Yeah, that'll be a huge laugh. But still, what concerns me here is that we're already seeing lawmakers and a number of these 2020 Democrats who are accusing Donald Trump and a number of his supporters of inciting violence. And still, what they end up doing is end up whipping up their own base, end up causing their own frenzy. And then when you confront them on this, in fact, I asked Joe Biden, I'm like, aren't you sort of whipping up your own sort of rhetoric here? Aren't you being divisive yourself? And he goes, no, I'm just being accurate. I'm just being truthful. So as far as they're concerned, they're not whipping up their base. They're not whipping up a frenzy. They're just being accurate. And that's something that is pretty concerning, because as far as Hollywood's concerned, they're saying, hey, look, we're just making our movies. We're just practicing our First Amendment rights. We're not whipping anything up.
Yeah. You know, Allie, the Hollywood hypocrisy on the gun issue is stunning. One of the best pieces I ever read, I think it was at Town Hall, forgive me, I can't remember, about the firearm issue was that one of the reasons the left has a hard time making progress on the issue of guns and what they call gun control is the fact that they don't understand firearm owners at all. They made no effort to understand us. When you contrast that with the effort by everyone to stop smoking in the United States, everybody knew a smoker, so they knew what to say. But this movie is like an epidemic of, it looks like, just from the trailer, I haven't seen the whole thing, obviously,
right,
but just the stereotypes alone of, you know, uneducated buffoons voting for Donald Trump and a bunch of smart elitists just kind of fulfills this stereotype they've had forever.
Yes, and look, I'm a fan of satire. They say this is supposed to be satirical. I think satire has an important and an effective role in political dialogue, but satire kind of misses the mark when it's representing reality so closely. Not that people are actually hunting conservatives, but we see that this is kind of a fantasy, or harming and even killing conservatives is a goal of some people on the far left. I mean, we saw that represented in front of Mitch McConnell's private residence this week, that some people actually want conservatives dead. And that's why I think this kind of satire is, like you said, so out of touch and misses the mark, and is not going to bring out a whole lot of laughs, unfortunately. That's just the state that we're in right now. It is too tense to make jokes about political opponents killing each other for sport. And it's crazy that we have to say that on this show, but apparently we do.
You know, Tammy, what worries me about this is on the right, we have a couple emergency breaks in our behavior. Again, every side has people who do stupid things. I don't want to be overly hyperbolic here. But when you're talking about an epidemic of this stuff, it largely exists on the radical left. On the right, we have our own media outlets that would never let us do this. You work for this network, I do too. God forbid you called for pitchforks and for you to be off the air tomorrow morning. But secondly, when you believe in big R God-given rights, you respect the rights of everyone, liberals included. This secular radical far left, not all Democrats, they don't have that emergency brake. And that's why movies like this kind of stuff worries me. I don't know what they're going to do with this kind of stuff.
Well, and the fact is, well, you're right, of course, but it's not just because, you know, of standards. Standards come and are born of values. So, you know, many people may think certain things in their minds, and then you move away from that. You don't, not only do you not make plans to enact things that are awful, you don't then try to engage other people to do it, or then promote it as something that is valuable and people should pay to see to influence society as a whole. So the values that we hold as a society should inform these things. And this is not a reflection at all about what Americans want. This is why Hollywood has begun to fail, relying on international ticket sales for their upkeep, and it's because Americans have stopped patronizing that industry, and that continues. But now we're at a point where they're also saying, you know, there's a narrative on the left about guns, and we know what's happening in society has many layers, and we cannot deny that it is the culture in which we live that is a contributing factor, and yet the people that are in control of our culture, if you will, deny that this is at all involving them. And it shows you the malevolence involved in their mindset. And it's a wonderful American industry. It's something that we all rely on and have enjoyed in the past. And hopefully it's someday when they adjust and Americans have truly had enough, we'll get to some good films again and won't have to deal with this.
Ladies, thank you so much. Great commentary. Really appreciate it.